Welcome to the Advance Your Art podcast, where we talk about the journey from artist to entrepreneur and everything in between. You've worked hard to hone your craft. Now take it to the next level with tips, techniques, strategies, and routines used by successful artists to grow their businesses and careers. Now, let's get started and have some fun with your host, Yuri Cataldo.
Well, hello, Nicole. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Thanks for having me, Yuri.
Of course, it's my pleasure. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing well as well. Thank you.
Good.
So I'd like to start off with a question about what you're doing now and what you're up to. So when you're out and about and somebody introduces themselves and asks the question of what it is that you do, how do you answer that?
Well, instead of overwhelming them, I just kind of tell them I'm a creative entrepreneur.
That's good. And do they usually go, what? Tell me more, or does that?
Oh yeah.
Or does that what? Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely leads to. Oh, okay, yeah. So, what kind of entrepreneur? What kind of creative?
Okay, great. So and does it get rid of the people who are maybe just asking just to be polite and not really interested?
Yes, definitely. And also because I live in Washington, D.C., a lot of times people want to know who's who in the politics world, so I can also weed those out as well.
Sure. I guess that would cut you off pretty quickly. Nope, not somebody that I need to chat with. I want to talk about politics.
Totally.
Excellent. Okay, so I'd like to then start from the beginning. So what was it that you studied in college, and what career were you going for during your college days?
Okay, so in college I was studying information systems management, and I had, basically studied all different types of network, hardware, software, programming. As a backup, my interest has always been music, but my family needs me make sure I have a backup plan.
Mm-hmm. That's good. So, so with then what you studied in college, what did you do after you graduated?
I went and started working for various government, quasi-government entities doing all sorts of network engineering and cybersecurity.
Wow, network engineering and cybersecurity, and what was that like?
That was, it was pretty fun, honestly, early on, because I thought I would be, like, super, hacker, wearing all sorts of ninja outfits, going in the dark and hacking into computers and trying to make everyone aware of crazy things going on. But then I soon found out it was nothing like that in the real world.
No, not so much. So you weren't like part of the white hat hacker team that was like hacking for the good of it?
Well, I mean, I guess technically I was a white hat, definitely trying to hack into systems to protect us. But it's a lot more corporate than it sounds.
Okay. Okay, so while you were doing that, you also became a DJ. How did that happen?
Well, I had been kicked out of a lot of rock bands because I couldn't sing very well. So I've always had a passion for music because it's in my blood. My family's been into music. My mother was an amazing guitarist. She played for all sorts of different bands like Journey, Chili Peppers, Lita Ford, and I traveled around with her when she would do her gigs. So it's just kind of, it's always been a huge passion of mine. But then I didn't really find my love with rock music. I spent some time overseas and really got into the whole electronic dance music scene. And that's when I discovered that electronic music and DJing was my thing.
Oh, that's great. So then,
Thanks.
so while were you working as a DJ at the same time you were having your day job? It was like you were like a nighttime DJ, moonlighting. Is that how did that work?
Exactly. I was working during the day and moonlighting at night with very little sleep.
Oh. How long did you do that for?
I would say probably. So when I started my college curriculum, it was around 2004. I finished a little later, probably around 2006. And then for 4 years, I was in the world working in IT. And I would say that entire time, which was, I guess, around 8 years or so, where I was doing both gigs, night and day.
Oh, wow. And then when was it that you made the decision to switch to being a full-time DJ and leave your day job?
That would be mid-2010.
Mm-hmm. And why? Was it because you were, like, financially a little more secure on that side? Was it just you just didn't want to do the day job anymore and you liked the DJing part? What was the reason for suddenly you deciding that now I'm going to do it full-time?
Well, I was working pretty hard hustling, and then I ended up starting a record label and producing an album with a good friend of mine, Rex Riot. And because of all of this music production and then just marketing and kind of touring around, I had gotten a ton of opportunities that I couldn't pursue unless I left the full-time gig as the cybersecurity hacker.
I gotcha. Okay. Great. So how long have you been working, or how long did you do your full gig as a full-time DJ?
So pretty much since 2010, I would say, like mid-2010, 2011 really started ramping up and doing the touring and producing and parties and stuff like this. Mm-hmm.
And do you still do that now?
I sure do.
That's great. That's great. That's still going along there. So at some point along this way, you decided to start a company. How did that process happen?
Well, I started doing a lot of marketing and contracts and just kind of trying to work this DJ thing as a business because I knew I loved to do it and I was good at it and I still am. But there's a whole other business aspect to it that I kind of had to force myself to learn. And in the process, I have a bunch of peers, like, great people like mentalists and drummers and singers and mermaids and a bunch of other peers in the industry were doing the same thing. And I found it was kind of a struggle to do that and still focus on my creativity. And then so I found the booking agency where they started managing all of that for me. But in my experience, I've had a few booking agencies that ended up taking a huge cut and not always being, transparent about their commissions that they were taking. It was sometimes could be between 50 and 70% of my fee.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and it wasn't just, me that was having that problem. It was like my peers, and we were all struggling because we're trying to figure out, look, we just want to live and do this because, this is our job now. It's our passion, but it's our job. It's how we're paying our rent. And I got so passionate because it was just making such a big, problem for all of us that I wanted to find a solution to make it easier. And that's when the whole entrepreneur thing happened and I started creating this new business.
Oh, that's great. So while you were launching this company, were there books that you were reading or people that you were reaching out to make the leap from being a DJ to starting the company?
Yeah, so I was kind of on ADD hyperdrive. I just was like a sponge trying to soak up information because it was a completely different world than the DJ business. DJ business, I'm running it myself. I can pretty much, handle most of the things happening because I'm one product. But when I'm starting a company like this, I have to think about, formation, legal, taxes, all sorts of other huge things that come into play because I'm selling all sorts of different types of services. So I had to go out and reach within my own network, and I also became a part of an incubator here in DC called 1776, and I read a ton of different books just based on, forming businesses, and then also even just lifestyle and balance because I started getting a little overwhelmed, and just started, pulling in all the different resources I could to start making sense of everything I needed to do.
Sure. Is there one book in particular that you would say helped you the most, or was your favorite?
Well, I would say there was a million different books on business, but I would say, to be honest, the best one that helped me during that time and still does help me is a book by Wayne Dyer, which is the Power of Now, which helped me kind of focus on everything that I needed to do, but still kind of keep myself in the moment, because I started finding myself getting really, really anxious about everything that was happening that could happen. But the most important thing to, in order to make all of these happen was to keep myself balanced and also still, live in the moment and breathe and meditate.
Oh, sure. So actually, if you could talk a little bit more about that, because it's, obviously going from what you were doing then, your first job, then to being a professional DJ, and then switching over and starting a company that's very stressful. And I'm sure there's lots of times where you felt fearful. What do you do when you're approaching something that makes you a little bit nervous, or something that maybe you're afraid to do? How do you approach that kind of situation, and how do you, I guess, overcome that feeling of either inhibition or being afraid?
Well, first off, I just make sure I've always got enough of a nest egg in my bank account to make sure I can take these risks. So that's making sure that you're properly prepared, because anytime you take risks, if there's, any sort of instability, it makes the risk that much more possible of failing. Second thing is just making sure that I, don't think too much about what could, would, should be, and I stay present in the moment and just focus on what's happening right now. And just taking things, prioritizing tasks, taking things one thing at a time, and, just living and not letting it encompass me, and just, making sure that I, realize that this is, might be a big problem for me, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really not a big deal. And that always helps keep me focused.
That's good. So could you go in a little more detail about your company and what you're working on and what you're trying to do with it?
Sure, yeah. So in a nutshell, what the company is, it's an online marketplace where it connects people planning events to quality vetted entertainment. So basically, like, you're just shopping. So if you want, you're planning a birthday party and you want, like, some amazing students from, one of these prestigious schools in town, or you want somebody that you know is going to do a great job, you come to us and you can find it. And, that's the best way to describe it to people that really don't know the industry. But what I'm really doing in the background is making this a stable place for people to sell services transparently through a structured process.
Oh, that's great. So let's say that I was, an up-and-coming musician, and I want to use your service. What kinds of things would it help me do?
Well, if you're up-and-coming, first off, you wouldn't be able to be searchable unless you were vetted, by somebody in the industry that's been on our platform.
Okay.
So, but you definitely could still use our services and have it do all of your contracting for you, your invoicing, collecting your payments, because it's basically a, one-stop shop and allowing you to do things really easy when it used to take probably weeks at a time to do everything pen and paper on your own.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, great. Great. Yeah, it sounds like this makes everything so much easier that way.
Thanks. I should hope so.
So while you're working on this and, this process at the incubator, are there certain daily rituals that you do to keep yourself focused? Are there apps or web services or any kind of services that you use that just kind of keep you on task and make your life easier so you don't get lost?
Sure, yeah. I mean, rituals, I like to ride my bike to work as long as the weather is nice. That always helps start the day out nice. Here in DC, you get to ride by all sorts of monuments and tourists, and it's kind of a good way to start the day and gets me ready to